Hello everyone, I am back here at Belgatos Park for another nature exploration. It is February 16th and we are going to explore the trail leading up the watershed to see what plants are looking like in the late winter and early spring as they start to come out of dormancy. Come check it out. I'm here right at the beginning of the trail, just off Belgatos Park on February 16th. A lot of our California natives start to leaf out from their winter dormancy. After they've lost their leaves, they gain their leaves back pretty early. And one such is this plant here. This is the poison oak plant that looked like bare twigs all winter, and now it has glossy new leaves coming out. Sometimes the poison oak new leaves will look more reddish, like this one here. A little further up the trail, we can see a plant which does not lose its leaves over the winter, and that is the toyon. See if you can find this one. Its leaves have little teeth along the edges. Here I am on the area of the trail with lots and lots of coyote bush, and you can see that coyote bush is also a plant that keeps its leaves all year. If you look really closely here, you can see something interesting, which is the darker green of last year's growth and this lighter green, which is all the growth that's happened since the rains started. When we get our winter rains, it triggers a lot of early growth. And native plants will do a lot of their growing in February with our rains. There are two types of blackberries that grow in this area. One is invasive, that's this one, and one is native. You can tell the difference because this invasive one has a very thick stem, and the stem is covered with spines that are quite sharp and thick and large. So why is it that some plants keep their leaves all winter and other plants lose their leaves in the winter? Some of the reasons are certain adaptations that a plant makes. So this one, the toyon, for example, the leaves are pretty thick and tough. Another adaptation is size of leaf. So this baccharis, for example, the leaves are quite small and they're also pretty thick. And its new leaves, you can feel them, are delicate and thinner, and they're happening at a time where there's a little bit less likely to be frost and there's more moisture in the air. And these are kind of hardened down here to tackle the tougher winter weather. And since our area has pretty mild weather overall, they don't have to go through as extreme of an adaptation, for example, as a place where there's frequent snow or frequent freezing temperatures. As we cross into the beginning of the Santa Rosa Open Space Trail, stop and enjoy the canopies of these live oak trees and valley oak trees. And there's a lot of active bird life right now. I'm hearing woodpeckers, blue jays, small songbirds. And if you're quiet enough as you walk along this trail, you may see birds on either side of the trail in the underbrush or up in the trees. The coast live oak, or Quercus agrifolia, is one of the most important California native plants in our area, because it supports a wide variety of different animal life, including insects, birds, and mammals. This tree alone supports at least 41 confirmed species, that's different types, of butterflies. And it supports them by providing a home for the larvae and leaves for the larvae to eat, and places for the butterflies to create their cocoons, and then forage for them as adult butterflies. The coast live oak also supports a wide variety of birds and has a particular relationship with the blue jay. They're adapted together. And also animals like squirrels. The coast live oak can be considered a keystone species. Here is a large thicket of poison oak. At first, it still looks like bare twigs. But as you get close to it, you can see just starting to emerge are new leaves. And one thing I've noticed is that this area, which gets more shade during the day, has fewer leaves on it than the poison oak that I'm seeing that's in the sun. Here is another plant that loses its leaves for a brief period and then gets them back very early in late January or early February. Here's what they look like when they first start to grow from the stems. This is an elderberry tree. What's interesting is as the leaves start to emerge, they all grow straight upward. And I'm wondering if you have any theories as to why they're growing upward. So heading up a little bit, this part of the trail has been cleared out a lot over the years, repeatedly. And along the edge is growing all this ferny stuff here. This stuff is actually not a native plant. It's an invasive plant called poison hemlock. And at first it fools you because its leaves look a little bit like carrots. It's actually in the carrot family, but you do not want to eat these leaves. They are poisonous. Best left alone. If you come back later in the season, you'll see this plant gets quite tall. On the side of the path here is the native blackberry. We'll take a closer look. You can see the leaves look pretty similar to the invasive, but the stems, while they still have thorns, the thorns are smaller and the stems tend to be narrower, maybe a little more grayish instead of reddish. Here's where the trail makes a hairpin turn. And there's a bunch of buckeyes on either side of the trail. And behind me, all leafing out. Here on the ground, I'm seeing seed pods from last fall's production of seeds from this buckeye tree. And the buckeye tree here in the shade is just beginning to come to life again. And you can see what the leaves look like as they start to come out from the ends of the branches. And then this one's a little farther along and you can see the leaves unfurling. Here are the leaves of the buckeye tree once they've completely opened up. You can see they all start from a central point and radiate out from there. And it looks like there's 6 leaves in each bunch. And since they look like the palm of a hand with the fingers extending out, this type of leaf is called palmate. So at first glance, it might seem like the elderberry and the buckeye look really, really similar at this time of year. But if you look closely at the leaf, this is the elderberry. You can see it has a stem with leaves that come out on opposite sides, kind of like the arms from the shoulders. And these leaves are actually called opposite. So rather than looking like the palm of a hand where everything comes from the same point, there's a single stem with leaves that come out at opposite sides. The California sagebrush was completely dry, adapting to the drought and heat of late summer and fall. And now that it's mid-February and we've had some rain, it's got a lot of lush new growth that's very tender and very fragrant. And you can see on the tips are the old flowers from last summer. And then below that is the new green growth from winter and early spring. You can see though still that its leaves are incredibly narrow and small, because this plant likes to grow in full sun and it knows that it will get hot. I'm up here where the 3 trails meet, and you can look down toward the riparian part of the watershed. This is one of the neatest places to stand and watch birds, because there's a lot of poison oak, coyote bush, various other seed producing plants. This is a good place to observe a south facing slope which faces toward the hot sun in the summer. Relatively few trees, lots of plants that can take the heat. And over here on the north slope, the shadier side, you see more oak trees and dense evergreen cover. Okay, everyone, that's it for today. Thanks again for joining this nature exploration in the trails above Belgatos Park, and I hope to see you again in spring. Until then, take care.